faith needs to come alive. Faith needs to be experimented with. Faith has curiosity written all over it, and it has questions written all over it. Faith needs to be challenged. Otherwise, it's just something that we accept, something that we just robotically deal with and go through our life. And you know, I got a son. He's 6 months old, and that's been like the newest addition to our life, and definitely everything that I wished parenthood would be, it's hitting that. But so much more. And I think the thing that I didn't realize about parenthood was, you know, when you watch the movies and stuff, you see the dads and the moms holding the baby and they get them to sleep and stuff. But watching how like every day, every week, there's something new. You're watching this little person like learn and grow, and it's the most incredible thing. I remember, you know, Jack would have, that's his name, Jack. He'd have like these crazy spastic arms. I didn't know babies did this. They didn't know how to control them. They were just like everywhere, right? And that's what would always happen. He'd be sleeping and wake himself up and hit himself, and his legs would be thumping. He doesn't. It's just like his body is learning all this stuff. And I remember the day when he was having this going on, and all of a sudden he went. And he looked at it. And then it took off again. It's like, wow, he just acknowledged his hand. He just saw it. And that's not something I could really teach him or even expect to happen as a part of parenthood. It's just like, whoa, that's really cool. And ever since then, like him learning how to smile and engage, everything is like him just observing what life is, taking it in, expressing it out, whether it's in his smiles or his cries or his, you know, whatever it is. And actually the other morning, I had the opportunity to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to attend to my son. We are currently sleep training him, which is a term that us new age parents use. Back in the day, you just let the kids go in a room and cry until they fell asleep. Today we put a title on that. It's called sleep training, and so we've been doing that. And but he woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and his cry sounded a little bit different. And so I was like, well, I got to wake up in half an hour anyways. I'm going to check him out. I picked him up, and it was the first time. Like I picked him up, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, what's up?" And like hold on to me and stuff, and that's cool. But like when I picked him up, he just like put his arms around my head and he squeezed and put his cheek into my cheek. I was like, oh, like the best 4:30 a.m. experience I've ever had in my life. It was the first time I felt like, wow, he's hugging me right now. And it's this expression, and it's this, you know, it has to come at his time. And I think that's this thing with faith. As we grow in our faith, as we try to find our faith, it's something that it has to come into its own when it comes into its own. It's not something that we can force. It's not something that we can put on people. We can just, ta-da, make it happen. And that's what I really liked about the story with the Croods, because there's all these rules. Like, curiosity is bad. And actually, you know, if you watch the movie, you see in the beginning of it how, like, all the other families, all the other caveman families died of like being stomped on by mammoths or like sea snakes, sand snakes, or the common cold, or whatever it was. So they created all these rules to keep them safe. You know, curiosity is bad. Anything new is bad. You know, they had all these leaving the cave at night was bad, and if you try anything new, you know, you heard the story of the teddy bear and it dies, and Crud is the dad, and he would always say like, never not be afraid, right? And then he would follow that up by saying that's what's kept us living so far. And then Eve challenges that and says, no, we're not living, we're just not dying. And I was like, there's so many good points in this. Actually, it's like a very spiritual movie. And it's got family all in it and entangled in it. But you know, I think with religion, oftentimes, it becomes this cave. It becomes this shelter of rules. You know, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. if you do this, you will die. It's not that rules are bad. Rules are definitely good. I'm glad that I listened to a few because I'm still alive today because I've practiced a few of those rules. But you know, when we're following the rules so much that we're just not dying, but we're not really living, that's where I think the problem comes. And, or that's where I think an issue comes, especially for, you know, when I'm growing up in a faith tradition. You know, I felt like my family or my community was keeping me in a cave. They had rules to keep me alive, is what they said. But I didn't necessarily understand those rules. And I didn't necessarily agree with all those rules. You know, we had the cave, and everything inside this cave was good. We called them insider rules. And then there was this whole world out of the cave, and we called that the outside world. And you didn't interface with outsiders. You couldn't trust them. They had bad intentions. They wanted to hurt you. You know, and it was just like a weird mentality. And I know that the heart of my parents was really to protect me. I can see that now that I'm a little bit older. But when I was 13 years old, 15 years old, I was like, what? And it just sucked. And so like, how to get out of that and how to move forward. And you know, I subscribed to this thought when I was younger that, because like my parents had this faith that was very strong, but I didn't. Like I was just, oh, okay, so that's what you want me to do. Because I have to go to church because you want me to go to church, and you pay for the house, or you make the rules, I guess. And, you know, that's kind of how it was. And I remember going, you know, like you know, it was my parents' faith, and I thought, well, maybe faith is something that I'll find one day. Like I'll finally look under the right rock and it'd be like, oh, there it is, found it, I got it now, I'm good. I don't have to do anything. And that I found actually that is very different. You know, if you look at something like fire, something that the Neanderthals had to use quite a bit, I think, back in the day, and primitive man. But fire needs a few things to happen. What are those three things?
Oxygen.
It needs fuel.
Yeah.
It needs tinder, and it needs
Friction.
I think we had it all.
It's an initial spark to get it going.
Yes. So we need fuel, we need heat, and we need oxygen.
Chemical
reaction to happen. And that's what creates a fire. And if you watch any survival show, you know, they will let you know how to start one.
Or you just need a flamethrower.
Or you just need a flamethrower. You know, we got a flamethrower, we're good to go. I think they're illegal. I think the Geneva Convention has things against those, but anyways, like, but that's what takes a fire to happen, right? It's not something that just like you pick up a rock and there's a fire. It's something that needs to be cultivated, something that needs to be created. You need to understand the principles of fire to create a fire. In my life of faith, I found that in my relationship with God is very similar. I have to put these different things together. The Bible says, you know, and I'm kind of stretching here, but faith, hope, and love. And the greatest is love. But you need these three things. You need faith. You need to believe that there's something better. You need hope in your life, and you need love to be able to move forward. You need that to enter the relationship with God. If you're missing any of these pieces, that relationship, that give and take action, I don't, in my life, I haven't seen it happen. I haven't seen it been able to happen unless I have these three elements put together and I invest into it with a desire to have something greater. And so I just want to share this quote from Father Moon because I think it's freaking awesome. But he said, the reason that you believe in God is that he had believed in you before you believed in him. Therefore, you should believe and love the will with your utmost gratitude and loyalty. And for me, this just confirms what I've experienced in my life. Maybe I couldn't put those words to it, but God has believed in us. You know, God's belief in us is in us. It's a part of us. And I think that's where that drive comes to want something else, to believe that my life can get better, to believe that I can have this relationship with something that I can't see, with something that I can't touch, But I know that there's something bigger than me, and that's within us. God has put that in each and every one of them. It really helped me in my life, because I was always looking for, oh, should I do this? What do you think I should do? Hey, mom and dad, what do you think I should do? Hey, pastor, whoever, what do you think I should do? Versus like believing that what God has given me and entrusted in me is what God wants me to do. And I have incredible mentors and parents and elders and peers that can help me develop that, but I shouldn't necessarily be asking them if that's okay for me to do. You know, here, Howard Thurman, he said, you know, don't ask what the world needs and do that. Ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is people to come alive. And you know, I think in our lives, you know, there's certain things that only you can do, only you can achieve. No one else in this room can do it. There's only certain people that you will be able to reach with the love of God. Nobody else in this room will be able to reach those specific people, because either you work with them, or you go to school with them, or they live right next door to you and not next door to me, because I live in North Carolina. You see how that works? But you have the ability, if you are true to who God has created you to be, you can move, you can change their lives, you can be a part of their lives and make something incredible happen. And I know that can be scary, because we don't know necessarily where that's going to take us. We don't know, like, okay, if this is what God has put in my heart, you know, I have this dream, I want to become this, or I want to do that. And then we start looking at, well, if I want to do that, then I have to do all these things. And that could be kind of overwhelming when we think about everything that we need to be. When I first became a carpenter, I was like petrified, because my dad is not a carpenter. My dad knows nothing. He can barely use a hammer. I love you, Dad. But I remember, like, the day before I started, I was like, how do you use a tape measure? What's a 1/2 inch mark? What's an 1/8 inch? What's a 1/16? I didn't know any of this, because I was never taught, and I had to learn it. And but I did it because that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to become. And you can achieve what it is, and opportunities will open. Father also says that faith plays the role of a guide. Therefore, it only takes you to the gate and not the room. And I think that's a powerful thing to understand, is when we believe and when we have faith, that takes us only to a certain point. And the next point is us actually stepping out, letting go, believing that whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And we don't know what that room is going to look like. We don't necessarily know that if I go to this school, if I take on this job, if I decide to talk to this person, we don't know what's going to happen. And that's absolutely fine. And I don't think it's our job to really worry about that. Our job is to just act and to do. And so that brings me to my next and final point, which is kind of faith and deeds. And we hear in the Bible, you know, this idea that faith without works is dead. James 2:14-26, and this is kind of a long one, so bear with me. I read it a couple times, so I shouldn't stumble too much. But I think this is awesome. So what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, have you faith? I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. I think that's like crazy right there, you know. Sometimes we're just like all about like, well, this is my faith, and and this is why you should subscribe to it. But he's saying, you will know my faith by my deeds. You will know my faith by the whole. Crazy stuff. So, you believe that there is one God, good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. You foolish person, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Was it not our father Abraham who considered righteousness who was considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar. You see that his faith and his actions were working together in his faith as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. You see that a person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. And as a body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. And in the unification teaching we have the foundation of faith, foundation of substance is what we teach. But this is what it's really talking about. And our life of faith and what it is. I've noticed in my life that sometimes I'm spiritually flatlining. And when I'm at that point, if I'm in a place, usually it's actually a friend or something that can say, Jaga, you're slipping up, or you're flatlining here, buddy. Let me get you. But if I'm in a place where I can actually see my life from a different point of view, I realize, wow, I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting down, complaining. I'm sitting down, watching too much Netflix survival shows. Actually, that's spiritual. But it's I can see that if I'm not applying, and actually this is kind of where I'm at right now in my life. I don't want to say I was completely flatlining, but I'm at a point where I've realized and I'm putting into action, trying to start doing something. I have ideas. I'm going to get involved with some community projects and stuff, but I need to be active. I need to be doing to get myself removed from where I'm at so I can see differently. And I think a lot of us, a lot of times people, you ever have like great intentions? Right?
Yeah.
We see everybody else and we're like, oh, do you know what they did? Do you know what they did? And we judge them by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions. So we're like, well, I thought I would do this, and something came up, so I couldn't do it. But I'm still a great person because I thought that. And I'm actually so guilty of this. You don't even know. But I have a lot of great intentions. Actually, the other day I was in the baby's room, and we have this little footstool thing, and I was sitting there, and the corners of the wooden legs are like crazy sharp, and Jack is he's on hands and knees now, and he's not crawling, but he does these lunges. I'm like, whoa, if he hits his head on that thing, he could split something open. And Tammy's like, yeah, but he might not. I'm like, yeah, but if I round the edges, then then he'll just get a bump. If not, he's going to have a gaping wound. And so I had this great intention, and then I realized, like, okay, Jaga, you've been on this for a while, or this intention thing for a while. I was like, I'm just gonna do it right now. And I grabbed it and I ran and I just did it. Like, I just gotta get in the habit of just doing it. Like, not just thinking it. Oh, I had a great idea. Oh, I wanted to really help this person, but it wasn't convenient at the time, or whatever it was. Like, I gotta just start doing it. That's where I'm at. And I think kind of collectively we get stuck and we get into our intentions, and that makes us feel warm and cozy, and because it was a nice idea, but we got to start acting on it, right?
Do you pray?
When I'm in trouble, I do.
Do you pray?
No,
Tell me why.
I don't know. I don't really know why. to tell you the truth.
Yeah, usually, actually, I do, but not very regular.
Do you pray?
Every now and then.
Sometimes I do, yes.
Every day, several times a day.
5 times a day.
Many times during a day.
Once a week, maybe.
Every day, all day.
Do you pray?
Sometimes, yeah.
How often is sometimes?
Like, once a month.
I try to get it in, morning and night, so.
Have you prayed this morning?
Not this morning because I was running late.
Do you pray?
No, I don't.
No, I don't.
No.
I do not.
Tell me why not.
Because I don't believe in God.
I don't think there is just one religion, and I think that although maybe I should pray to at least some form of God, but I haven't found it yet.
Tell me why not.
I'm not really sure what I believe in.
Actually, I take that back. I do pray in the sense of just sort of a quiet, reflective time that's more of an introspective analysis, but there's not a supreme being that I would say that I pray to.
Tell me what you prayed about.
I prayed about just the basic prayer, forgiving me of my sins and things of that nature.
Just for people I know who died and just things like that, and that everything goes well in the future.
Pray for myself, for my family, yeah, for my people, for everything, yeah.
Usually I pray when one of my family members is sick, or if I need a new job.
For forgiveness for the things that I've done wrong.
Everything, anything you could possibly imagine, I pray about.
Do you feel that prayer makes a difference?
I think it really does. Whether or not you can, see it happening around you, but I think it's something that makes you feel better.
Do you think it makes a difference?
If not on anything else, it at least gives me mental peace, and that's what I pray for actually most of the time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I can't say how practically, but I know it does the way I feel about things.
I think it helps me to keep my focus, helps me to refocus at times. It's easy to get caught up in worldly things, and then helps you take a few minutes sometimes, whether you're going to work, or coming home from work, or at the end of the night, to refocus and keep your priorities in line.
It's a way of focusing, kind of a stress reliever in a way too.
I believe it does, if not psychologically, at least spiritually. I think it affects both of those qualities.
It just makes you feel better, and you it helps you feel better about the people you're praying for, and just makes you think, I guess.